Living alone at 73 doesn't mean living without warmth. Loneliness is not decided by the number of people around you, but by how deeply you feel connected to yourself, your days, and the quiet meaning woven into ordinary moments. There comes a quiet moment in later life when being alone no longer feels like something that happened to you, but something you have stepped into. It often arrives without ceremony, a morning when the house is still. At first, that silence can feel sharp, even unsettling. The absence of conversation, of shared meals, of someone else moving through the same rooms. You notice how your body settles when it is not adjusting to someone else's pace or expectations. Making peace with your own company is not about convincing yourself that you don't need anyone. It is about remembering that you are, and always have been, a complete presence. When you wake up and there is no one else to account for, the day belongs to you in a way it may not have for decades. At 73, many people carry a lifetime of voices inside them. Parents, partners, children, employers, responsibilities. Solitude gives those voices space to soften. It speaks in preferences, in comfort, in gentle truth. It reminds you what you enjoy, what you no longer wish to tolerate, and what truly brings calm. Evenings become less about distraction and more about presence. A book is read slowly. A window is opened just to feel the air change. Trust that you can meet yourself without fear. This kind of peace does not arrive all at once. There are still days when loneliness knocks quietly, usually tied to memory, a holiday, a familiar song. It means they pass through without taking over. You learn to sit with them, acknowledge them, and let them move on without judgment. Over time, being alone begins to feel grounded rather than empty. The home becomes a reflection of your rhythm, not a reminder of what is missing. Your body rests more deeply. You start to notice that the most important relationship you have left is the one you carry with you at all times. When self-trust grows, solitude becomes a kind of shelter. Not from the world, but from unnecessary noise. It is where you recharge, where you remember yourself, where you feel whole without needing to be witnessed. Living alone does not mean withdrawing from life. It means standing firmly in your own presence, knowing that your company is not something to escape, but something worth keeping. When you live alone, days can easily blur together if they are left without shape. Morning turns into afternoon, afternoon into evening, and before you know it, time feels like something that simply slipped by. This is where daily rituals quietly step in, not as rules, but as gentle anchors that give the day a sense of beginning, middle, and rest. A ritual is not about productivity. It is about familiarity. It is the comfort of knowing how your day opens and how it closes. For some, it starts with the same chair by the window each morning, the same cup, the same pause before the world fully arrives. There is no one else's schedule to follow, no shared routines to keep pace with. Without intention, that freedom can feel disorienting. Small comforts matter more than we often admit. Making the bed not for appearance but for order. Opening the curtains at the same time each morning. Taking a short walk after lunch, even if only down the block. These actions are not about filling time, they are about marking it. They turn hours into moments that are remembered rather than forgotten. There is also dignity in repetition. Appetite steadies when meals arrive with regularity. The mind feels less restless when it knows what comes next. A simple routine invites movement without pressure. Watering plants, stepping outside for fresh air, writing a few lines in a notebook. These are ways of staying connected to the day itself. What makes rituals powerful is not their size, but their consistency. A single candle lit each evening. The same music played softly while preparing dinner. A quiet moment before bed to reflect on the day, not to judge it, but to acknowledge it. These moments they remind you that even alone, your days have structure and care woven into them. You are not waiting for life to happen. You are participating in it, one small rhythm at a time. With simple, chosen routines, time becomes something you inhabit fully. Living alone does not mean living disconnected, but it does invite a different relationship with connection, one that is quieter, lighter, and more intentional. Over time, many people learn that connection does not have to be constant to be meaningful. It only needs to feel safe, mutual, and kind. In earlier years, not because people matter less, but because energy matters more. These moments may seem small, but they remind you that you are part of a living world, not sealed off from it. There is something deeply reassuring about knowing you can step into connection and step back out without guilt. You are no longer trying to prove your availability or your warmth. You are simply present when it feels right. Someone who does not require constant updates. Someone who accepts that weeks may pass between conversations and that nothing is wrong because of it. You begin to notice when conversation energizes you and when it drains you. You learn that it is okay to decline an invitation without explanation, and equally okay to say yes to a brief visit that ends when you are ready. This is not withdrawal, it is self-awareness. Connection can also be woven into daily life in subtle ways. Sitting in a cafe not to talk, but to be among others. Attending a familiar place where faces become known over time. Offering a greeting, a smile, a shared comment about the weather. These exchanges do not demand anything, yet they quietly affirm belonging. What often surprises people is how much connection can be felt without deep involvement. Knowing that help is nearby if needed. Knowing your name is recognized somewhere outside your home. These quiet assurances ease the mind and soften the edges of solitude. Some connections come with emotional weight, expectations to listen endlessly, to fix, to absorb others' unrest. With age, many people realize they no longer have to carry that. Protecting peace becomes an act of respect, not selfishness. It is about touching the world lightly and allowing it to touch you back in ways that feel sustainable. A balance forms between solitude and presence, between privacy and participation. Living alone does not require a crowded life to feel complete. When connections are chosen carefully and held gently, they support rather than overwhelm. You remain open but not exposed, present but not depleted. And in that balance, loneliness finds very little room to settle. There comes a quiet realization, often later in life, that people are not the only source of fulfillment. For years, meaning may have been tied to roles: spouse, parent, colleague, caregiver. Conversation and company filled the hours, sometimes by necessity rather than choice. When living alone, a different kind of fullness becomes possible, one that grows from within rather than arriving from outside. The simple act of noticing the day, how light changes in a familiar room, how silence settles in the afternoon, how the body feels after rest, creates a sense of presence. This attention turns ordinary moments into lived moments. Interests often resurface when space opens up. These activities do not need an audience. Their value comes from the way they steady the mind and give shape to the day. It can be as simple as learning a new recipe, following a topic of interest, or observing how habits affect mood and energy. Living alone creates room for thought without interruption. Memories surface, not to trap you in the past, but to be understood with greater clarity. This inner reconciliation brings a calm, that no amount of social activity can replace. Purpose might be caring for a space, maintaining health, offering kindness in small ways, or simply living with awareness. Knowing that your days matter to you is enough to keep loneliness from taking hold. There is also fulfillment in choosing how much stimulation you allow. Silence becomes restorative rather than unsettling. When inner life is rich, loneliness has less to attach to. It is defined by what has been made room for. A steady pace, interests chosen freely, thoughts given time, days that feel complete without explanation. Fulfillment beyond people does not replace connection, it balances it. It ensures that when connection happens, it is a choice, not a remedy. And in that balance, living alone becomes not a condition to endure, but a life that feels whole, calm, and quietly joyful.